Hey there, Meeple peoples. This is Mark from the Meeple Society, and together with Jess, Katy, and Greg, we're here to go through another top 5 list. So, one magical thing that board games can do, above and beyond making money and time sometimes seem to disappear, is that they can take us places where we have never been before, or in some cases, wouldn't even consider going. Arguably, in me and Jessica's case, that means out of our subdivision. But that's different for everyone. They can also take you to places that are still in the burgeoning growth period or long forgotten places that were at the height of their advancement, places that will not ever be available for us to go again without the aid of a time machine. Board games, like nothing else without the word roll and play in its title, can take us all around the world without us having to get a passport, pay for an overpriced flight, and a sketchy hotel room. So here are our list of top 5 around the world games.
All right.
All
Do
right.
a normal pattern this time?
Sure, what the heck.
All right. So I will start off. My number 5. My number 5 is a 2-player game that we picked up a long time ago. My number 5 is Acrotory. This was released in 2014. It has, oh my gosh, action points, hand management, tile placement, map building, route building, all of that. So in Acrotory, you take on the role of an explorer in ancient Greece, combing through the then uncharted Aegean Sea for lost temples, which are lying in ruin around the island of Thera, better known today as Santorini. This one hits my top 5 because we took this with us to on our trip to Greece. God, that's been a long time now. 5 years ago, I think, something like that. But anyway, we got to play it on the island of Santorini. No, we played this one on the island of Mykonos.
We played this on Mykonos, which
played
was
this on
right
Mykonos.
around the corner from an Acrotory.
Absolutely beautiful area. Matter of fact, since we're videoing this, I will show a picture of the game right here with the gorgeous Aegean Sea in the background. So with this one, it combines tile placement, hand management, pick up and deliver. You place out tiles on the board and thus build the islands as you go. And then you are using map cards to determine different symbols on the cards. You have to look at the symbols on the cards with the symbols on the tiles to determine exactly which island might house one of your forgotten temples. So your card may say that you have 2 volcanoes to the east of you and 2 waterways to the north of you and 2 mountains to the east of you. And then you're going to find an island in between there that matches that description, and that's where the temple is. You just have to be the first one to claim it. So I really like this one. I think the memory of having played it in Greece adds to that. But, my number 5 is Acrotory.
Nice.
Okay, so my number 5 is another. It's actually traveling around the world about it, and this is Trekking the World. This is the 3rd one in that line.
That's the
correct?
second one in the line.
One. Oh yes,
the
that's
parks,
the second one.
Trekking the World, and Trekking History.
You are correct. Okay, did we have a video of this one?
The world, yes, we do actually.
So check
Yes.
out the video. But this is it's just like trekking the national parks. You're going different places, picking up landmarks and different stuff by
Well, you're picking up souvenirs.
Correct souvenirs, landmark. You're going to the landmarks to pick
Going
up
to
the
the
souvenirs.
landmarks.
If you're picking up landmarks, you might be a villain.
You're right.
Touche.
That's true. Okay, because in national parks, it says you're picking up the park, but you get the park card.
Yeah, you're
In
picking up the park card.
in the world, you're getting the
the
landmark card.
card.
So you're picking up the landmark cards. How about that? Is that better?
Sure.
Okay.
There you go.
But in the way you do that is by your travel card. You got to have a certain amount of cards for the certain amount of the different stuff, and you can also pick up. What are those? There are the little specialty tokens. So you get when you clear out that area, you get
They're map tokens.
Map tokens.
And when so many of them are cleared from the board, that ends the game, but they're also points at the end of the
Yes.
game. If you grab the last souvenir from a region, you get the map token from that region.
So yeah, but this one's really cool. I mean, it was definitely a step up from trekking the national park. The components are really cool.
Yeah.
We've played this with you guys, right?
No.
No.
Trekking the World? No.
Yeah. Oh.
Okay.
No, we played Trekking Through History, and we're We're looking forward to the next one, which is probably going to be trekking through the microcosm, but we're not entirely sure.
Right.
Now, I like this whole series. I really do. But yes, Trekking the World is one of my favorites. But the artwork is absolutely phenomenal. The whole series, the artwork is gorgeous.
So yeah, so that's my number 5, Trekking the World.
Alrighty. So my number 5, and this is actually kind of appropriate that that Katy picked the one that she did, because my number 5 is 2016 game Santorini.
Oh.
Oh, there you go.
All right. So you guys traveled all around Santorini in your game. I'm just plopping right there in the middle.
Right there in the middle, yep.
All right. So you might have heard of Santorini, or its classical name, Thera, where it was the site of one of the largest volcanic eruptions ever in the 16th century BC, which changed it from something a little bit more normal looking into an island that kind of resembled a crescent moon, and some say gave rise to the legends of Atlantis. None of which has a damn thing to do with the gameplay of Santorini. It's just really cool history, and y'all ought to know it anyway. The board game Santorini is an abstract game for 2 players. I believe now they've had editions that allow for more than 2 players, but generally it was set up as a 2-player game, in which you were trying to get one of your 2 workers to the 3rd level of a building and win, while blocking any of the other players' workers from doing so by topping the building with the kind of quintessential blue domes that pictures of Santorini you'll see. These beautiful blue domes on top of these beautiful white buildings. And everything is set up nicely in this game to match that. The basic rules for Santorini are really simple. On a player's turn, they can complete 2 actions in order. Move one of their workers, and then add a level of a building in one of the 4 adjacent spaces around them. The builders can build from any height. Basically, they can be on the ground and they can build a 3rd level, so as long as it's adjacent to them. They can also move up and down. They can move up 1 level at a time, but they can go down any number of levels. We'll just assume it's falling is a lot faster than climbing.
There you go.
The game has got an amazing looking table presence. The buildings and the 3D island are just wonderful to look at. And the god cards that come with the game kind of offer variability and added tactics to the game that help out. It's fun, even if you're not the biggest fan of the abstracts. So that is my number 5, Santorini.
Yeah, this one, they've got it on Kickstarter again.
It actually just
And they
finished.
have new mods. One's a scenario base, the other one's a co-op base. But I guess scenario would be co-op, so maybe that's the same one. But
Maybe.
And it's supposed to be more deluxe than it was. I mean, we have it. Katie
I've
doesn't
never
like
been a
it
big
much.
fan of it.
And this is another game we actually played in Santorini.
We did. We played this in Santorini. This is one that got us pulled over by airport security because I did not have it in its box. I just had the bags stuffed into our carry-on, and they couldn't figure out what all the pieces were. So security pulled us aside and opened up our bags to figure out what all the pieces were.
Good pick.
All right. Yes,
I
good
like
pick,
it.
though.
She doesn't.
Yeah. I like the aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful game. So yeah. All right, Jess, what's yours?
My number 5 game is the 2020 board game Mariposas. Published by AEG, this game's mechanisms include grid movement, hexagon grid, movement points, set collection, and turn order is stat-based. So in Mariposas, players assist the great migration of monarch butterflies. This event takes place over 3 seasons and 3 generations, first starting in Mexico in the spring. From there, the butterflies will spread out across eastern North America. Come fall, the last generation of butterflies must make it back to Mexico before winter comes. So the map has locations like Orlando, Richmond, New Orleans, Houston, and it goes all the way up to Quebec, Canada.
It's hard to get up to Canada, I feel,
Yes.
in this game. Because you're afraid that you're not going to get anybody back down. Because you don't get any points if you don't get back down, isn't
Nope.
it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Not a thing.
So you really like this one.
I really like this one. You have not. See, exact opposite.
I have not figured this
He's
game
not
out.
figured this one out, but I really like it.
I'm kind of hit and miss on this. I am okay with it. but it doesn't feel like it's like really, really great shakes. I almost feel like this game kind of got out on name recognition, and it's all right, but
Yeah.
I don't feel like it's.
It came out on the
Heels
heels
of
of
Wingspan.
Wingspan.
And
Yeah,
I think
exactly.
everybody was expecting
Yes.
a follow up from Wingspan and kind of
Yeah.
a Wingspanish type, and it's nothing like
No,
Wingspan.
it's
The only
not.
thing,
It really isn't.
the only comparison is it's wildlife.
Mhm.
Pretty much it.
In the artist, the designer.
Well,
in there,
yes,
so.
the
Yeah.
designer,
Yep. So my number 5 is Mariposas.
but all right.
My number 4 is Kanagawa.
Mm,
It's 2016. Yellow, IELLO.
yellow.
Yellow.
Yellow, yeah.
This game's mechanisms include hand management, open drafting, pattern building, push your luck, set collection, turn order, claim action, and worker placement. This game is supposed to take place in 1840 Kanagawa, a prefecture or a district in Japan. Master Hakusai opens a painting school to share his art with his disciples. You're one of his disciples, and you want to prove yourself worthy. Hakusai was a real person. You know that iconic painting of the giant wave? That painting is called The Great Wave of Kanagawa, and he painted it, and probably countless other sea and landscapes that we've seen without even realizing it. His yokai paintings are iconic, and he might as well be called the grandfather of the manga art style. Okay. Anyway, it was my turn to get a little historical, I guess. So this game, you're trying to improve your studio, and you're trying to create the most beautiful print. So each card has two parts. One is this beautiful landscape. It's going to have like maybe a building, a person, or an animal on it. The other part of the card will upgrade your studio. You have to choose which side of your card you'd like to use. The studio upgrade may give you more paintbrushes or in-game scoring, things like that. The painting side might help add to your growing landscape painting with certain elements that might help with in-game scoring. The artwork is beautiful, the components are sturdy. The game mat that the cards are like drafted from, more or less, is made from bamboo and it rolls up.
Yep.
It's just a rolled up bamboo mat. It's kind of cool. It has kind of like a canvas Tang Garden kind of vibe, but it's its own game. I mean, yes, it has that kind of making something beautiful in Japanese or type vibe, but it's its own thing.
I feel like Canvas is a very welcoming game. I don't think that Kanagawa is quite as welcoming, but it is still very, very aesthetically pleasing and relaxing too. Yes, there are definitely some tactical decisions you make throughout the game.
Yes.
But I never feel like this game is one that, I'm like gritting my teeth while I'm playing, ooh, I've got to make this move. No, it's very
Zen.
Zen is probably as good a way as I could put it.
Yeah, I like this one more than I liked Canvas. I
I
enjoyed
think so
this.
too.
The
I
play
don't
of
know.
this
I
one
think it
more
was
than I
just
did Canvas.
we don't own either one. Both of them we borrowed from
borrowed
you,
from
so
you guys, so
I'd have to play them both again.
I
but-
think they're both really good for what they are, but they are entirely hitting different
Yeah,
audiences.
they're not comparable. It's just
Yeah.
they've got a similar theme.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's
exactly.
yeah.
So
So
my
that's-
number 4 is Kanagawa.
That's an awesome pick.
Yay.
All right, on my list, we are moving from the gorgeous Isle of Santorini to the grungy brownstones and cobble streets of pre-20th century London, specifically the Whitechapel district. My number 4 is Letters from Whitechapel, done in 2011 by Asmodee. Specifically, we are trying to stop Jack the Ripper from a murder spree that has everyone in Victorian England setting themselves up in arms and in utter terror. Now, on its own, this game shares a lot of mechanics with 221B Baker Street. You have a villain player, and everyone else is playing the cops as they are going through a hidden movement / logic puzzle type game, trying to track down and arrest the killer as soon as possible. In Letters from Whitechapel, there are 5 killings that happen, and you are trying to catch Jack the Ripper before the more days that pass, the more chances that another killing happens. But the theme on Letters from Whitechapel and kind of its progeny, which is Whitehall Mystery, it just oozes out of every pore of this game. The map board, the player boards, and the rule books all have this wonderfully grim and, turn of the 20th century feel to them. The black and white, the newsprint type, everything is really well laid out in this. It's got a horrific look that's consistent with the period, and that sells it. Aside from just being a fun game, it gives you this wonderful feeling of tension throughout the entire game that just locks you in as you're trying to figure out, has this person that we can't see, has he been in this location? Can we investigate this location? As you work with your fellow police to try to find the killer, or if you're the killer, trying to stay a step ahead of the other players. It's a very good back and forth. I just feel like this is just a really good game. I'm a little saddened that we haven't played it more often. There's a possibility that we may look at getting like Whitehall Mystery, which is better set up for 2 players, just to try to get this feel. It's a different murder mystery. It's not specifically at Jack the Ripper, but it's got the same kind of vibe. And so I have played this. I have played this a couple times. I have played it at Gen Con with people I didn't know, and it was a blast then. It's still a blast now. So my number 4 is Letters from Whitechapel.
Yeah, I've been interested in this one before. When I first seen it, many years ago, when I found that I would really wanted to play it and started looking for it is when it kind of like went out of print.
Mm-hmm.
So it was hard to find. And this has kind of got a Scotland Yard feel to it too, as well, right?
Yeah,
because it's hidden movement.
Yes, it is.
And that's what she doesn't really like the hidden
like
movement
hidden
games.
movement.
So
I've discovered that over the years.
So I kind of gave up my search for it, but I'm still curious in playing it though.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. Oh, I'm next, ain't I?
Yep, you are.
I should be ready for that.
Yes, you absolutely.
Okay. So my next around the world game is another one that we're traveling around the world. This is Pan Am. This is it's not really it's a mass hobby game, as I call it. Game that you can find it.
Hobby game.
Yeah, it's a mass market game that you find in a lot of hobby collections. But this is all about building your airlines from the small little planes up to the jets, though, and you're trying to build routes all the time. You are trying to get areas to be able to connect to, but the whole time is as you roll the dice, it's showing routes that Pan Am is taking over. So you have a chance to sell your route. Say I have a route from Milan to London, which I don't think is an actual route in the game, though. And Pan Am is going up that way. Now you've got, basically, if they get to that route, you have to sell them that route. But you're going to get a lot of money to be able to get more stuff later.
You are.
So, and then you can build even more, but you keep the points. So,
yeah. So
it's a lot of fun. It's kind of like, how far do you push it? How far do you go? How much are you willing to spend to get a location to be able to go to connect there?
Because it's all open bidding.
Yeah.
On different.
Yeah. So
all
it's kind of
actions.
It starts off. It's like an action selection. You have workers and you place them in the different areas. And once everybody goes, then you start like, okay, section A. Who won this bid? Who gets to put the airport?
Yeah. Well, and it's
section
not just worker placement, because you put your worker out, but then say he puts his worker on the 0 spot to build a new airport. Well, I'm willing to pay $3 to build that airport, so I put my worker on the 3 spot. He gets kicked out and has to go someplace else. He can come back later and take the 6th spot and kick me out. But it's this weird open building worker placement thing. It's really neat. It's neat the way they do it.
Cool.
Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, when I first seen it was at Target, I was like, oh, okay.
It doesn't look like
this is a
much,
Funko game. So it's a lot of fun. And that's Pan Am.
All right. Well, my number 4 takes us to the wild plains of the Serengeti. In other words, it is wild Serengeti. This was released in 2022 via Kickstarter. Has action drafting and pattern building and set collection of the 3 main mechanisms in it. The game was inspired by the endless plains of the Serengeti. You are playing a camera crew trying to film the animals in various patterns or various locations. in order to complete scene cards. So the director has said he wants specific scenes of the elephants or the crocodiles or whatever, and your job is to go out there and get the animals into those positions so you can collect on that scene card. The scene cards all have various icons on them that lead toward the set collecting for the end of the game scoring. There are various mid-game scoring points and end-game scoring points, and the best part about this whole game is the Meeples. I mean, it has got these gorgeous screen-printed Meeples. All animals, all different. They are beautiful. That's what sold me on the game. In fact, that's why I backed its predecessor, or its not predecessor.
Successor.
Thank you. Yes, they put out a not. I don't want to say second edition, but it's Life of the Amazonia.
Oh yeah.
I
It's
backed
kind of the
that
same
too
thing in the
because
Amazon.
of this one. So, but anyway, this one, like I said, it takes you out into the plains. Loved it. So, but my number 4 is Wild Serengeti.
Sweet.
Oh, I gotta do number 3 too, don't I?
Number 3.
Number 3. Oop. My number 3 takes us. Well,
You're a rock band.
you're a rock band. My number
Well, actually,
3
you're
is
the publicist.
Yes, something like that. I don't know. My number 3 is On Tour. This was in my top 5 games I wanted to play that we did not own, and now we own it. In fact, we own
The newest copy of it.
2 copies of it.
Now it is in your top 5 games that you own?
Yes. Right. It's in my top 5 around the world games now. All right, so with this one, it plays anywhere from 1 to 8 people. It comes with 8 dry erase boards. This is a roll and write where you are a band manager or a publicist, and you are trying to plan out the best route for the tour for your band, either across the U.S. or across Europe, or in the new version, either in Paris or New York. The Paris and New York locations. We haven't even opened that one, so I don't know what all it involved yet. So every round, someone rolls the 2 10-sided dice. It comes with these 2 very chunky 10-sided dice. So somebody rolls those. Everybody works off those same 2 dice. So you take those dice to make up 2 combinations of numbers. So for instance, if it is a 5 and a 6 that's rolled, then you are having to work with 56 and 65. And you have to plug those numbers in somewhere on your map. Now, along with that, there are 3 location cards out that show both a region and a specific city. So it may say the northern region or northeast region and New York City. If you can place one of those numbers logically into New York City, then you get bonuses. But you have to at least place it into the northeast region or one of the 3 cards. All 3, there's I think 6 different regions involved, and of course 50 different locations on the map. But you have to use 2 of the 3 with every roll. So you can't just arbitrarily go, well, I need to go, this number really needs to be down in the south because that's where it is. But here's the trick to this one. The numbers have to be in some sort of
Sequential.
Thank you.
There you
That's
go.
the word I was looking for.
I knew
They
a
need
big
to be
word.
in
Good job, Greg. Gold star.
they need to be in some sort of sequential order. So it doesn't do you any good to go 2, 20, 18. You've got to have them, and you have to be able to draw your line all throughout. Now, there are pre-built lines on the map. Now, there's a half a dozen lines coming out of every city, so you can have some control over how you're routing it,
But you can't cross over any of your
but you
lines.
can't cross over one of your lines. You can't enter a city twice. So you got to follow a few logical rules. So it's a lot of fun. I absolutely love this
This
game.
one, if you're really good at Ticket to Ride and making the longest route, wind all the way through the United States, whatever, you would think you'd be really good at this, but sometimes you get down to where there's not many places left
Yeah.
and the numbers just aren't coming up. You're like, going,
Yeah.
well, I just
I think
lost
our-
2/3 of my country.
Yep. So I think the longest line I've had so far is 14 cities. So it sounds really easy. It is not. Yep.
Okay.
But anyway, that's my number 3 On Tour.
Yep. So my number 3 is the game that actually got us into the hobby, and that is Pandemic.
Right.
So this one, you're definitely traveling around the world. If you haven't heard of Pandemic, then you've lived under a rock for a while. We talk about
Or you at least haven't listened to our podcast.
right? But yeah, so you're
Yeah.
trying to basically cure the world of the four
Four diseases.
four diseases to win, or you lose and the world is eaten up by the disease. But yeah, so you're traveling around. You have different actions that each person can take. They have their special actions, and you can move, you can cure. We have a video on it. It's our very
It's
first
horrible. Don't go
video,
back and
so
watch
it's
it,
kind of hard to
please.
watch. Because
It's-
we've gone back and started watching some of those. It's like, whoo,
We
boy.
need to remake some of these.
Yeah, so,
pretty
but we
bad.
do have a video on it, and we explain it. You explain it pretty decently.
I-
Plus,
I
we
did,
fix
yeah.
some things as we're going through. But
Yep.
yeah, so that is Pandemic,
You're number 3.
and this kind of covers all the pandemics.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Alrighty. So on my list, we go from the terror of a serial killer in pre-20th century London to the terror of a serial killer in pre-20th century Chicago.
Ah,
I think maybe I have a type.
Maybe.
So my number 3 game is Crimes in History, H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle. H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle takes you to the World's Columbian Exposition in 1893 in Chicago. There, the White City saw Buffalo Bill's Wild West show making an appearance next door, people eating shredded wheat for the first time, the landscaping wonders of Frederick Law Olmsted, the designer of Central Park in New York City, and of course the world's first Ferris wheel. And there are also Herman Webster Mudgett, also known as Dr. Henry Howard Holmes, may have killed as many as 27 people. That wasn't quite as much covered in the exposition. You, in this very much non-cooperative game, play a character that in some way, shape, or form are connected to Holmes. Therefore, in true save-your-own-ass manner, you are trying to gather evidence to convict Holmes and get yourself off on the schneid by sending him to jail and hopefully a quick hanging, while painting yourself as the picture of Lily White, I didn't know he was doing that in those rooms, innocence. Throughout this game, you will follow the twists and turns and strange rooms of the infamous Murder Castle, search for evidence that you need to convict him, and hopefully escape the castle with your life before anyone else. This game was put together, it's a first time designed by Blueprint Gaming Concepts, and they put together an intense, fun game that hinges on selecting action tiles with a follow this mechanism, where each player on the turn will get to accomplish the main action that the player whose turn it is takes, but the player whose turn it is also gets a bonus action on top of that. Throughout the game, Holmes will make moves to various rooms, sometimes dislodging hard-won evidence from your hands, which is probably better than just losing the hands altogether. It's fun, it's gritty without being overly so. It's just a wonderful theme, and it's historically based, which makes it, very nice as far as I'm concerned. This is one of my favorite first-timer games. This is H.H. Holmes' Murder Castle, Crimes in History from Blueprint Gaming Concepts, and that is my number 3.
and we have a video for that.
We do.
And you
We
guys
do.
introduced us to this game, and this
Yeah.
was actually a lot of fun to the point where we actually went out and bought the
We
game
have
as well,
introduced
so.
this to other people now, and they all enjoy it too.
Yeah,
so.
it's a great game. I'm really hoping that whatever Blueprint Gaming Concepts puts out next, it hits as good as this, because they did a really good job with this for a first-time
They did.
game.
Absolutely did.
Good pick.
All right. My third pick is the 2021 board game Sea of Legends.
Ooh.
This app-assisted Guildhall Studios game includes the dice rolling, die icon resolution, narrative choice, paragraph, and storytelling mechanics. Metallics.
Yep.
Yeah, mechanics.
Metallics, yeah.
Do. Oh, wait, sorry.
No.
That's Metallica.
Behave. You've definitely heard me mention Sea of Legends here before, and that's not surprising. It's a fantastic game where you take on the role of a pirate, following 3 unique storylines, all the while trying to fulfill certain parameters to win the game before your opponent or the AI-controlled bad guys do. Your lover's storyline may call you to Havana, while your nemesis might take you to San Juan. but your own dealings with one of the many unique AI controlled factions might drive you to Tortuga. The map takes a lot of liberties, the distance between all of these different locations, but the flavor is still definitely there. Not only does this game take you on an adventure where your choices are remembered and really do have consequences, but it has minis and you get to roll dice.
Yes!
It's a beautiful
You
thing.
get to roll dice.
And I know a lot of people don't care for AI assisted games or app assisted games. I'm sorry. But it's a fun game. And like I said, the map takes some liberties on distance. It's almost like they were like, this is the shape of the island. And we're name dropping for your piratey flavor.
Yep.
But they exist.
No,
And it's a good game.
it is a wonderful game. I like this game a lot. I am almost never dissatisfied when we pull out this game.
Yeah, and this is what the last time you talked about on the podcast, Jess. When I seen it on there, I actually watched videos of this, and I was like, oh, this is nothing like I thought it was. It actually looked really good. And
No, it's a
and I started warming on the app assisted games. I mean,
What?
I used to hate them.
Are
I'm
you-
like going, I don't want to play app assisted games. 'cause
You're
what
no
happens when
longer
they
get
stop
off
it?
my lawn, Greg.
Well, we've picked up a few more
Yeah.
that are app assisted, so it's
There-
like okay. Because like Planet X, I couldn't imagine playing that game without an app. Oh wait,
you
yes I
couldn't.
could. It's called Turing Machine. But anyway,
All right.
but yeah, that's a
I
good
like
pick.
that one.
Great pick.
My number 2 is Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective,
Oh my gosh.
Jack the Ripper and West End Adventures.
So we're going back to London now.
We're back
Yes,
to
we're
London.
back to London.
And
Back
we're
to
gonna
London. Okay.
we're gonna double down with Sherlock Holmes, whom yes I know didn't exist, and Jack the Ripper. My number 2 game is the 2016 Asmodee Mystery in a Box. All of the Sherlock Holmes Consulting Detective games take place in London or thereabouts. These games are immersive, giving players newspaper clippings and maps of parts of London. Like directories.
Yeah, directories
Those
of
are almost
people.
like phone books, and you run around and you interview different people, and so you get to run all over the West End, and then you come back to Sherlock and you give him the absolutely wrong answer, and then he tells you that a toddler could have done better.
Yep.
But it's a fun game.
Yep.
It's definitely, like I said, it's a mystery in a box. There's really not a whole lot I can talk on it without giving away stuff. But I mean,
Right.
basically you've got a bunch of paraphernalia that you're going to look through, and you're going to use it to help you figure out where your next place to go is. And Sherlock will tell you that you're a useless.
If you had
bag
3
of
available brain
oxygen.
cells to rub together, you would have come up with
Yeah.
this.
So,
I like
And-
to be degraded by my board games. I guess,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know?
no, absolutely. And one of the things I like about these games, now we were just talking about app assistance and everything like that. I like the fact that this one, everything is analog, because it doesn't seem like it would fit well with an app assisted sort of thing. I don't think having the analog bit to it for a nice 18th century murder feels, or an 18th century crime, I guess, because I'm not entirely sure they may
nice
all be
little
murders, but they
cozy 18th century murder.
19th century,
19th century.
murder.
whatever. Either way, having those printouts and everything really immerses you. Whereas I don't think it would quite immerse you as much with an app thing.
Right.
And obviously we love Chronicles of Crime, so we love app assisted mysteries. It's just in this particular case, it just feels more immersive with the stuff that they have in it. That's a good call. I actually like that one quite a bit.
Yay. That is my number 2.
Alrighty. And my number 2, now we're hitching a ride from turn of the 20th century Chicago to Budapest in Eastern Europe and take a carriage ride from there to the eerie and, I'll be honest, slightly fictionalized rural village in Transylvania. Also in the Victoria era, where we find the estate of our father, who was, by the way, a mad scientist. This is My Father's Work. My Father's Work is a narrative-heavy Euro in which players are competing mad scientists entrusted with a page from their father's journal and a large estate with which to perform their devious experiments. Players earn points by completing experiments, aiding the town in its endeavors, upgrading their macabre estates, and hopefully completing their father's masterwork over the course of 3 generations. And at the end of each generation, all their experiments and resources are lost. And while the town changes, new problems are sure to arise throughout the entire region. I mean, who would have known that townspeople could form a mob so quickly just because a few bodies had been repurposed from the cemetery? I love this game. It is a longer game. I'm going to say that. It's a longer game than I'm usually comfortable with playing. However, one of the things that I will say was I was absolutely invested the entire time, too. Usually, you get to a 2-hour game or something along those lines, and by hour 1.5, I'm like, can we be done with this? Can we be done with this? Oh my God, can we be done with this? And this one, no, I was gripped the entire time. I was on the edge of my seat, and I didn't feel like that much time had elapsed. The narrative to it is freaking wonderful. It really sells this more than I think it would possibly have on its own. The components are utterly awesome. And like I said, the narrative makes what might have just been kind of a yawny, dry Euro resource management game into something really, really gripping. And the app, it continues that immersion. It's got the sound effects. It's got the eerie music. It's got voice acting, although it's not voice acting all throughout. But on the occasions it does. It's got this nice dark gothic feel that I really like. This one like jumped to the top of the quick list when I saw some of the details on it, and it's just so much fun. I like this game an awful lot, and I love how the towns change throughout the ages. I love that choices you make directly influence what happens in the next age.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got a playthrough of this one.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the
I
gameplay.
enjoyed
Hold on a
it.
second. I really enjoyed my gameplay through of it because the dice, the
He acts
game
like I
was
didn't
working
enjoy it.
really well for me. Everything I was doing, I was like, okay, I'm doing this. Okay, that's working. This.
I made
She-
some bad choices in the very first round, and it carried through the entire game.
Yeah, she
there
got
was
behind
no
so
recovering
fast.
from it. I like what it does. I enjoyed the story. Quite frankly, I'd have been happier if there was more voice acting in it, so I didn't have to read all of it.
Yes.
But that's an app. They can fix that.
Yeah,
I think this one was very immersive. Like I said, I just made some bad decisions early on, and that carried on for the whole game.
She hosed over the entire freaking village, but she won the game.
I won that game. So I
Ah.
got mayor, and I made some choices. And in the end, the animal people were like, "We're people too. Respect us, but we have urges. What should we do?" And I basically said, "Let them eat cake," and everything
you-
just.
So we're heading back to London on mine.
Jeez, how many trips are we making to London here,
This
guys?
one we're gonna drive a cab. This one is London Cabbie. This was
This
in
was
my
your
top five
of
of all-time played games.
I just was still, and I thought about that one. That one made my
But
short list.
I am trying to make a resurgence of this game, get it out there. Maybe they'll reprint it, throw it on Kickstarter with better components and a better
luck
board.
with
But
that.
this is so much fun. And I still haven't played it since we did that top five either.
We'll get to the
And I
elves
so
by the
want
end of
to
the
do it.
year.
Say, hey, we don't have anything else playing today. So
Yeah, we do.
I know we have another video to do in 2 podcasts, but we can play London Cabbie. Anyway, but you are a cab driver in London, and you're going around London picking up fares and taking them to different places. So you're going to go someplace, pick up a fare, because it's the ticket that's up already. You go there, you pick up the fare, and then you draw a card
they
to
tell
tell
you
you
where they
where it
wanna
has
go.
to go.
Yeah.
And you got to deal with roadblocks, one-way roads, and other cabs taking over. And at
jams,
some point,
yeah.
you can have enough where you get a second cab out there, and now you're splitting your movement between the 2 cabs. I really like this game. She's the one that introduced it. She played it, I guess, when she was younger.
Yes,
and
my
found it on
aunt
eBay.
My aunt owned this when I was a teenager, and we used to play it all the time. And I imagine if we took that with us to Phoenix one time and showed my sister, she'd love it.
You look at the board, and it's, I mean, you look at the game the way it is right now,
It
you're
is
like, oh my God,
quintessential
it's really dated.
1970s.
And how
It
could this
is-
game be any good? But it is
yeah.
a lot of blast.
It's a
I
lot
would
of fun.
love to see a reprint on this game.
Yeah, it's a
To
lot
see
of
what
fun.
they would come out with. But yeah, London Cab be really good. If you get a chance to play it. I like it.
I just keep forgetting that you like that game so much. That just blows my mind. Okay, it just has nostalgic value for me. So,
You're number 2.
oh, my number 2. All right, well, we're going back to the U.S. To the Pacific Northwest with Cascadia. So my number 2 is Cascadia. This was published in 2021. It is a puzzly tile laying token drafting game featuring the habitats and the wildlife of the Pacific Northwest. So with this one, you are building your own habitat. Each player builds their own habitat of landscape tiles and not farm animals, wild animals. So there's 5 different animals in the game, and all 5 have multiple scoring cards. So each game you're picking one scoring card from each animal. So you're constantly changing up what you're trying to do each game. So there's a lot of variability in that aspect. But each round there are 4 landscape tiles and 4 animal tiles out that you can choose from. Now you have to choose a matching set. You have to choose, if you choose the first landscape tile, you're taking that first animal, etc., etc. And then you put the landscape tile into your habitat, and then your animal tile has to go on to someplace else in your habitat that it will work. Each landscape tile has between 1 and 2 animal icons printed on them, and those are the only animals you're allowed to put on that tile. So if you pick up a water tile with a salmon on it, but you have a bear to go with it, you may not be able to put the bear there. Depends on whether that tile allows you to. You may have to put the bear someplace else. But maybe I want that bear because I need 3 bears in a row over here. So I need the bear for over here in this part of my habitat, but yet I want to eventually grow my salmon population over here, so I'm grabbing this tile too. So you're trying to build both at the same time. Meanwhile, you're trying to keep all your landscape tiles, your similar landscape pieces together, because at the end of the game, that's going to score you more points if you have all of your water pieces together and all of your wood pieces together. And I love this, but it comes with grizzly bears, elk, salmon, red foxes, and red-tailed hawks are the 5 animal choices you have. So it's one of my favorite tile laying abstract games.
It sounds like I've never actually played Cascadia, but it sounds like it's got a lot of similarities to Verdant.
Well, it's the follow-up to Calico, and Verdant is the follow-up to Cascadia, so it's all right there together.
Yeah,
I definitely like
Verdant
this
yet.
one. We have a video for this.
We do have a video.
We actually played this with Co-op of the Nerds.
Yeah.
So
So that's a good one. I like this one a lot. I think you guys would really like this one. All right, but anyway, that was my number 2, Cascadia.
and your number 1?
My number 1, we're going back to one of Greg's earlier picks, is Trekking the National Parks. He had Trekking the World. And actually, I've just put down the whole series because the whole series is great, but specifically Parks, again, because it has special memories attached to it. Trekking the National Parks was published in 2014. We picked it up in probably 15. This is one where, similar to Trekking the World, you are trekking across the United States, Canada and Hawaii, or not Canada, I'm sorry, Hawaii and Alaska too, visiting the various national parks. And the board is littered with national parks I had never even heard of before. It has your basics. It has Yellowstone. It has Smoky Mountain. It has why can't I think of the one up north?
The one up north.
How's that called?
Oh.
Glacier.
Yeah.
But it has Glacier National Park. It has all of the big ones you're used to
Yellowstone.
seeing. It also has the little ones like Theodore Roosevelt National Monument
She
or
always talks
National
about
Park.
that
I
park.
do.
She
I love
loves that
Theodore
park.
Roosevelt.
The Black
Canyon on the Gustinson. It has all these little parks you didn't even know existed. In order to travel, you're using cards kind of like Ticket to Ride style. You're collecting cards with different movement points on it and different icons on it. And you can play the cards for either one. You can play the cards for the movement points to move between the parks. Wherever you land, you can pick up the token that's on that park. And then tokens are endgame scoring for whoever has the most. But in order to claim the park that's there, if that park happens to be out at the time, to claim that park, you have to have the various icons that are also on the cards. So your cards are dual purpose. But this one holds a lot of special memories for us. Right after we bought it, we decided to do just a road trip. No real plans in mind. For the first time in my life, I did not plan a vacation. But we gave ourselves 2 weeks, and by God, we decided we were driving west. Our ultimate goal was to get to California and see my mom. We had 2 weeks to do it. No problem. Well, we hit
Terre Haute heading towards St. Louis and decided, nope, let's go north.
Yeah, well, but we stopped at theater. No, it was one of the homes of one of the presidents. Herbert Hoover's National Library. And they had a national park book, this really thick spiral bound book that just had all the different parks in it where you could pick up the stamps.
The big passport.
Yes, it was a big passport book. So we bought that, and it totally changed the whole atmosphere of our trip. And we had already planned on visiting a couple national parks. We brought this game with us, and we ended up setting this game up and playing this game in half a dozen national parks across the country. It was so much fun. I think that is part of it, of why I like this game so much. We don't play it very often, especially now that we've got World and History as well. Regardless, that's my number one, trekking the national parks.
Okay,
Cool.
So we're leaving the United States.
Again, I brought us back, and now we're leaving again.
Now we're going to Belgium.
Oh, God, I know which one we're doing.
And precisely, we're going to Bruges. Is that a surprise? No, it's not.
Not at all.
Bruges is currently the best Steffenfeld game out. A lot of people say, no, it's not.
That seems very subjective.
Yeah, well, it is what it is. But it's all about you're building up Bruges, you're building canals, you're building buildings, and this is the reason I like it. It's because of the multi-play of the cards. The cards can be used in all kinds of different ways. You can make it a house. You can if you have a house, you can actually pay what you need to make the person that's on the card. Now you have that person's action. Or you can trade them in for workers. You can trade them in for money. You can trade them in to build the canals. You can trade them in to get rid of threats. So there's plenty to do with each card you have.
There's quite a bit.
But it is I think it's because of the card play in it is the main reason I like it. I mean, it has it has dice in it because the dice is what's going to tell you
the dice
what
determines
the
the market.
Yeah,
it really determines the market and what happens. Are there threats that come out? What are the threats? How much can you trade in certain color cards for what money? How much can you get for those cards? So it really is kind of the market.
Yep. But yeah, so I've talked about Bruges enough, haven't I?
I think so.
Before. But yes, this is Bruges, the best Steffenfeld game. I haven't played Marrakesh yet. So
we haven't played any of the New City collection at all.
Huh?
So we haven't played any of the New City collection at all yet.
Because all of the New City collections are the old games, just renamed and changed
revamped
just a little bit. Because Bruges is now Hamburg.
I think so.
I think it's Hamburg.
I don't know.
I can't
we haven't
remember.
bought any of them yet.
Which I don't plan on playing. But Marrakesh is the newest one that's not a remake of another game. So,
all right, that one we might have to get. We'll see.
Yes, I've looked for it. But yes, that is Bruges.
All right, I'm passing because when this whole thing came out and we started talking around the world, I knew straight up that my number one and Jess's number one were probably going to be the same thing.
So you're doing a joint number one?
Yeah.
More or less.
We can see each other's lists.
So we actually had one crossover through the whole thing.
Wow. Well, technically, no, because I did Parks, you did World. Yes. All right, what's your number one, guys?
Can we guess it?
So
take a stab.
Take a stab.
Take a stab.
What is the game they always play?
But that's fantasy. That's not based in a location. Yeah, I have no idea.
We probably should know it,
We
but
probably should.
You'll do one of these things as soon as
right?
as soon as she says it.
Our number one pick is the 2009 Z-Man Games Tales of the Arabian Nights.
Oh,
I
duh.
thought that when
Yep.
it came in, that was in my mind. I was like,
Duh.
and then she goes, "Well, that's French." It's like, well, no, not really.
I was thinking of
You were thinking of the
Madeira. I was
different
thinking of the one they
game.
talk
Oh,
about all the
Madara?
time. Madara, yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no.
Yep.
All right. This game
All right.
contains dice rolling, narrative choice, paragraph, point-to-point movement, role-playing, storytelling, and variable player powers. It's a shame that this game is no longer in print, but I'm still going to tell you all about it anyway.
They have the Arthurian one coming out.
Mm-hmm. Players take on the role of characters such as Ali Baba, Sinbad, and Sherazade, and travel across the land to seek their own destiny and fortune. Your characters travel to places like Constantinople, which is now known as Istanbul, which I'm probably saying weird, Mecca, Timbuktu, Lhasa, Stonehenge, and finally Baghdad. They'll grow wealthy or impoverished, complete quests, undo curses, encounter royalty and afrits, and visit secret places of power like the Sepulchre of Solomon. There is no app for this, so the whole thing is handled by a thick book of tales with the help of a reaction matrix, so you know exactly how wonderfully or terribly your situation has gone. I kept drinking at a fountain that kept changing my gender
Yep.
in one of our games.
Yep, exactly.
And you want to try to get certain things fixed before you get to Baghdad. So
Yep.
like sometimes you have to go to Mecca, like on a pilgrimage to fix
Yep.
certain things. And I don't know, it's all over the place. It's so much fun though.
Yeah, there's not really a whole lot that I could say that she hasn't already or wouldn't say. There are some that say you can't really call this a game, and yeah, okay. It's an experience. It's not necessarily a straight up game. Yes, there are win conditions, and somebody's eventually going to win, but half the fun is actually going there in the first place. The strategies and from paragraph to paragraph are a little bit on the random side. Not that there's anything wrong with that. And the flavor of the game just really shines through and makes it a blast to play. I don't know. We've played this game several times, and I don't know that I could tell you who won in any of those games, but I could tell you specific things that happened, like the fountain, the time that I was jailed for saying the wrong thing about the Sultan, the time that I got besotted over a witch and carried a curse with me for over half the game. And you can go everywhere here. And to me, the fact that I can remember these specific things that happened, that actually makes it the mark of a great experience. I remember the travels, not just the outcome. So that when this whole thing came up, the first one that I was looking at, I was like, oh, well, obviously, if we're traveling around the world, that's our number one right there.
So you
Right,
guys introduced this to us a while back. This was like before our son and daughters actually started dating.
Yes.
Before your game room. I mean, I remember playing this on the kitchen table with you guys, but I don't remember a lot about it. But then we picked up Agents of Smersh, and I was describing it to one of, I think it was Connor that actually said something about it. He says, "This is just like, that sounds just like Tales of Arabian Nights." Just like, really? I may have to revisit that game. Yeah. I know somebody who has it.
But that's
All right.
that's our number one, Tales of the Arabian Nights.
Awesome.
All right. Any honorable mentions?
I had some.
Had a couple, I think. Most of my honorable mentions ended up on her list, though.
Yeah. Several of mine ended up on Greg's.
What'd you have?
All right. So the ones that I didn't, that were not mentioned, Oracle of Delphi,
Oh,
Again,
another.
we've been there, so again, I think that's why
Yes, we've been
one of the
there.
reasons I like it. The 10 Days series. 10 days in Africa, 10 days in the USA, 10 days in Europe. We do not have Asia.
That was on my list.
It
That was
is
cool.
one of the most simple games. You are literally just trying to put things in order.
It has a board with the
don't
map
use
on it
it.
that you don't use. It's just basically there so you can see where the countries
The
and everything are
map,
at.
the board is totally a reference, piece of reference. That's all it is. So anyway, that one, Yukon Airways. This might have made my list if we had played it more than once.
Yeah.
But you're traveling all over the
Yukon.
Yukon in Canada, doing air flights. So Great American Mail Race, traveling all over the weirdest
Oh,
name,
yeah.
every weird name city in every
You
state.
had a lot of them.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, you had London Cabby on there, see?
I did have
I'm
London
rubbing
Cabby
off
on
you.
there. Yeah, I know.
Let's see here. We had the Seven Wonder series because you're actually hitting a lot of those there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the only one that didn't make either one of our lists.
Well, I also had the 10 Days series.
Okay.
I had Brass Birmingham,
Okay.
which
Never played it.
The Iron Age.
I had
Yeah.
Paris.
Yep, Paris was on my short list right there.
I had Lisboa,
Okay.
which you're rebuilding Lisboa.
You're rebuilding the city
And
of
then I had
Lisboa.
the Agents of Smersh.
Okay. Yep.
I had more, but I only cut my list off at 10.
Oh,
So.
I didn't put them in order after 5. That was hard. 5 was hard enough. This was the list I originally chose from.
Well, that is our top 5 lists of games that take you around the world. By all means, like and subscribe. Hit the little ding to
The bell icon.
Yeah, hit the bell icon. All that kind of stuff.
And we have our link tree
Yeah.
link
Yes.
right there at the bottom of the screen.
Absolutely. We'll see you around the next corner.
Not in a creepy way.
Not